technology becomes multifold in every sector, it generates huge amounts of information that can yield valuable insights about the field. Now, this has led to a boom in the data industry in the last 10 years. Nonetheless, data collection needs to be supplemented with its analysis for obtaining data making insights. And data analytics can help businesses and industries make sense of the vast volumes of data and further growth and development. Investing in analytics is the difference between successful and failing companies in the present and the years to come. Now, therefore, if an organization wishes to truly realize the power of data and analytics and AI across functions, it can do so through non-linear scaling of these capabilities. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Analytics Insight podcast. This is Priya Dayalani, your host for today. I'm sure most of you must don't know what exactly non-linear scaling is, and hence this podcast today is going to focus on how non-linear scaling is helping organization and companies to further scale up and augment their data analytics capabilities and achieve more results. So if you're not really sure about how we can get started with, today we have Mr. Satya Prakash Ranjan, Head Analytics Research and Data, Fidelity Investments India. Hi Satya, how are you doing?
Very good, Priya. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good too. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on a podcast today.
Likewise, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. So let's start the podcast, but let's first know about more about the company. What exactly Fidelity Investments is? What are the services the company offers, and is there any differentiation factor that we can talk about Fidelity?
So, Fidelity Investments is a privately held financial services company. We were founded in 1946, and our goals have been strengthen and secure our customers' financial well-being, and to bring unparalleled value to the people and companies that we have the privilege to serve. We are a fairly diversified company, and our strength literally comes from the scale across our interconnected, market leading financial services business and the customers we serve. And if you give me a minute to talk about the various businesses that Fidelity has, our asset management business provides money management and investment solutions. And we are one of the largest mutual fund companies in the US. Through our personal investing or workplace investing or healthcare group and institutional services, we are helping more than 35 million people invest their own life savings, 22,000 businesses managing their employee benefit programs, as well as providing more than 13,000 wealth management firms and institutions with investment and technology solutions to drive growth. That was Fidelity Investments globally. The entity in India was established in 2003 and works with various business units in US to deliver better outcomes for the customers and businesses we serve.
Amazing. That's quite a short and a crisp introduction of what Fidelity Investments is. In the initial introduction, I spoke about data and analytics. Now, the basic source of achieving a competitive advantage is an organization's competence in mastering all aspects of analytics. And also, the upcoming trend driving the competition is a wave of predictive business analytics that empowers the users to be future ready for all the potential challenges and the fight the same with accurate and reliable data. Now, data analytics softwares and different service providers, with its reliable and time-tested reports, enables organizations to make informed business decisions faster than their competitors probably. So, business incumbents builds on a strong data culture and having an edge over the new entrants in the market. Now, since you are basically the head of analytics research and data team in Fidelity Investments, so we would like to know more about this specific group and with what mission and objectives this specific group was classified, and what exactly are the is a work probably daily routine work that this group or the specific team handles.
Sure. So if you look at the India entity, it is essentially a microcosm of the larger Fidelity. And in Indian parlance, it can be called as Global Capability Center or GCC. Now, before I get down to analytics, I also wanted to describe saying at Fidelity India, apart from shared services, we have three large delivery functions: technology services, business operations, and then the analytics research and data function. And all of these work together very well. And our primary goal goal, of course, is to work with our US partners to serve the customers or the end customers that we have. Now, coming to the group, which is analytics, research, and data, it essentially is a center of excellence which exists to enable Fidelity with the mission to maximize business impact by providing strategic insights and solutions for data driven decisions. Now, if you have to maximize this impact, what we have done is we have brought together multiple capabilities which inform our strategic insights and decision making. And they are analytics and AI. We also have intelligent automation and operational excellence. Then we have the research function, whether it is primary research, secondary research, product research, investment research, and a consulting arm too. And finally, the enterprise data strategy, architecture, and engineering. And it is a combination of these capabilities that our analytics, research, and data group oversees here at India.
Okay, sounds quite interesting. While we are talking about analytics and research, and specifically how Fidelity has a different entity when you're talking about analytics, research, data, and of course, different technologies that are surrounding and revolving around these three terms. Now, in a market with a lot of global uncertainty, only the most innovative, bold, and flexible organizations stand a chance in delivering real value to their customers. And how they are actually doing that is leveraging data for understanding the past and current market scenario, and also that can help them in predicting the future outcomes. So this is not just improving the decision making to the changing and constantly evolving market conditions, but it is also helping them to build a reliable portfolio and risk management plan for the future. So, having said that, we would want to know your views, Satya, of what are your views on the role of data analytics as well as artificial intelligence in a particular organizations, and how do you think that Fidelity can add value to the particular organization or to the clients for that matter?
Sure. Thanks, Priya. You almost mentioned the role of data and analytics. What I would say is we live in the era of data Darwinism, and companies which can leverage data, whether it is internal or external, to inform and enable their day-to-day activities and the decisions are more likely to be successful than others. And it's known. I mean, it is no more a surprise today. If you look at another trend, the amount of data that gets created and captured today across enterprises, as they say, is even more than the stars in the observable universe. So we no more talk about either terabytes, petabytes. We are even talking about exa and zettabytes at a collective level, right? And underlying that is the compute power which is backing this, right? And what it allows us is to harness this data and run complex algorithms in real time. And that is how the decision making becomes fast, and ability to look at multiple rules, multiple factors, which our human mind cannot do. So that is the world we live in. I mean, it's a known and it is no more a surprise to anybody, right? At Fidelity too, we have a rich history of data. I mean, we have been in the existence for more than 70 years now. We are also aided by external data. So purely in terms of value, we are able to use analytics and AI functions, not just for our traditional functions like sales, as an example, where you could look at algorithm driven leads optimization or relationship management, or even in customer engagement, where we look at now machine driven personalization and suggest the or recommend the next best action for the customer. We've started looking at areas like operations. For as an example, you can do now voice based authentication and routing. We're also looking to use analytics for our talent functions, finance function, risk function. And in each of these areas, there's multiple examples, right? As an example, we are using data to inform decisions for our talent acquisition, whether it's a workforce strategy, workplace strategy. So when it comes to the question of values, I would say these capabilities have become the foundation of what we call digital transformational and external customer experience. And if I have to broaden the horizon of customers, it's not just external customers, but internal customers too, whether it's associates or various functions that we are managing. So clearly, far more value than what we have traditionally thought of. As I said, it's not just the sales or customer related organizations, but even internal organizations like talent, finance, and risk.
Definitely, I completely agree with your point that it's very important to focus on different aspects and elements of how we are using our data. And just like you said, talent is also an important part of it, which I feel usually is always ignored, or organizations tend to overlook that factor. But I guess it plays a very important role because we really need good, skilled and good, efficient data scientists as well when we are talking about harnessing insights from data and how it can be beneficial for the maximum of our benefits. So this is, while I've been taking podcasts since a long time, and I know I've been talking to a lot of industry leaders. So one of the things that I have learned, or what I guess a lot of industry leaders have said, that when we start and focus on an outcome, it's a great way to deliver value quickly and get people excited about the opportunity. And it's taken us to places where we even haven't expected to go before. So if you're talking about data, or if you're talking about any other technology, we never imagine that okay, we'll be having a smartphone today, and with just a touch of a button we can have a calendar schedule, and a reminders are set in place. So we may go after a particular outcome and try and organize a data set to accomplish the outcome. So once you do that, I think people start to bring other sources of data and other things that they want to connect. And it really takes you in a place where you go after a next outcome and the next outcome, and you don't anticipate going after before any further. So, while these are some of the key learnings, or probably that I have shared with you while talking to other industry experts, we would also want to know about your key learnings or your journey so far with Fidelity, and specifically as the head of the analytics research and data team.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Priya. And in fact, there are quite a few of learnings, but I will, share just the top few. So, few things. First, while we say the potential of using data and analytics for decision making is really very, very high, continues to grow year after year. However, we have to make sure that we are using it to enable business impact and not just for the sake of it. And there are enough examples available in the open world where if you start losing sight of impact, the customer, the outcomes are actually far more dangerous than losing sight of the technique itself. So that has been my first learning as to how do you stay central to what the customer experience is, what the customer impact is, and the business value related to that. The second one I would say is, look, the space will continue to evolve. I don't think we have reached the plateau of our hype curve, as we call it, and will continue to change. Hence, the need to be agile and nimble is very, very important, and that's the only way we can stay on par with the new enabling techniques. So that's the second one. Finally, I would say, and which applies to large organizations like us, the power of collective, which is what I say, whether it is multiple sources of data or whether it's multiple skills or multiple business units, is far higher. And in fact, the way we are set up here in India, we being the microcosm of Fidelity, it allows us to harness that in a much more seamless way. And this is one of the reasons that in India we have brought together the skills like analytics, research, consulting, and data, all of them together. And that allows us to work for better outcomes. So, when you look at these learnings, I would also want to touch upon what have we been doing and how are we, driving to deal with these learnings. And I would say over last 18 months, what we have done is we have decided to focus on four outcome based things, and which we think is very, very important, and we casually remember them as four eyes. The first one is what I call impact, and the idea here is to link each of the work that we do to business impact, and it's about creating that mindset so that we can prioritize and focus on increasing business impact and ROI, whether it's in terms of revenue, cost, or customer experience, and in far bigger multiples than current. So that's the first eye. The second eye is what we call influence. And this is where we want to further increase the consumption of data and insights for all strategic initiatives and functions. And as I said, even non traditional areas. For example, I mean, if you, let's say, have information about your customer preferences. So today we can have recommendation engines, not just for our core services, but even allied customer needs. So I mean, in a open world, it's almost akin to, let's say, credit card companies offering recommendations for which restaurants to go and eat, which was never considered as the core of a credit card company offering. So that's the second one, influence. The third I is innovation. And the idea here is also to use data, research, and insights to uncover new ideas and enable innovation for the organization. So again, take an example. Imagine the power of using customer insights to also determine what new products can we offer. So it's almost like bringing the product and customer organization together. And that is the innovation lens that we try and apply. And finally, I would say industry leading expertise. We definitely want to fuel our journey with industry leading expertise, but it is both internal as well as partnering with leading edge companies because there's a lot happening in the market. So in some ways, a lot of learnings, but these are the four eyes which allows us to stay focused on the outcomes. And that is how we try and stay focused.
Quite interesting, Satya. I think whatever learnings that you have had in your journey and then classifying them into the four key learnings or the four I's that you mentioned, it's quite interesting to see how Fidelity is actually leveraging that and making sure that you are sticking to your deliverables as well. Now, in the initial, so this entire podcast that we're talking about is more focused on the non-linear scaling of data and analytics. So, let's hit the nail now. That what can you share your thoughts on a non-linear scaling of data? Because to be honest, even I'm not sure about what exactly non-linear scaling is, and I'm sure our listeners, few of our listeners might be knowing, but some of them might not be knowing. So, if you can give a brief introduction about what non-linear scaling of data is and what are your thoughts on the same aspect of data and analytics?
Sure, Priya, and I'll try and simplify what I mean by non-linear scaling. So let's look at the problem first, right? I mean, as companies, we continue to stay focused on meeting customer needs. So the need for scale is there. Every company probably has it, right? It's either in the dimension of, let's say, the number of use cases or decisions which we would now want to answer using analytics in AI. There is scale is in terms of the amount of data which is now available. There is scale in terms of the emergence of new techniques which are available to look at this data. And more importantly, there is a need to do this fast and real time, right? So, but if you look at the core of this need to scale, the people who are doing this is are analytics professionals. And even today, for several of whom, much of the time is spent on getting the data, then discovering insights out of data, mining it, and then taking a long while to even take it to production or bring it to life, as we call it. So if you really look at, if we want to scale, it is obvious that the answer to doing this is not the traditional answer of scaling by just adding people. So it is not like if I have 20 use cases instead of 10, let me double the amount of people I have, and that's how I will grow. Because that, I mean, don't get me wrong, that too will give an ROI, but that soon gets unsustainable. And then both our businesses or customer facing functions and the analytics professionals who are trying to produce those insights, they start getting frustrated very soon because the speed at which they want to meet the demands is never met. And hence I say there is a need to meet that in a non-linear way. And I will emphasize it's non-linear, which is you cannot meet that by just adding the number of people, but more by thinking differently. And I will touch upon what the different means. And it is around what I call the capability and a platform mindset.
Okay, thank you for explaining us what a non-linear scaling of data is. Well, definitely, I think data has become a lot more accessible and it can be used by everyone within a company to increase productivity or, for that matter, enhance decision making. So it's not a big surprise that data analytics has become an important tool across different organizations. And by bringing data from across the business, companies can get real-time insights into finance, sales, marketing, or for that matter, even the smallest of department that the organization has. But now, since we are talking about a non-linear scaling, we would like to know that why should large or diverse organizations should leverage the power of data, analytics, and AI, but through non-linear scaling?
Sure, Priya. And, I will just extend upon the why part that I touched earlier, and specifically for large, diverse organizations. See, for us and all similar organizations, the scale means very different than, let's say, the concept of scaling in a startup, as an example, right? So it is not just scaling in one dimension or sleeve of the value chain, but scaling in multiple dimensions. And to take an example, there are companies who might just do, let's say, a digital or a robo advisory solution. But if you look at that as an offering for large financial services company, they are probably just one minor part of the whole offering. So scale really is across multiple dimensions of the value chain, right? That's one. Second, I would say, for large companies like us, the power of interconnectedness of diversified business is far more than just a simple aggregate of the different businesses, and no company would want to miss that, right? Now, having said that, it is very relatively easy to do in what we call a digitally born organization, right? But not so easy for a digital migrant, as we call it, right? Companies who were traditionally operating in a different way of servicing customers and then moving to very digital way of doing it. So I would say, while data might be available in the organization and large volumes of data, making it easier to access, analyze, and action sometimes require heroics by the analyst professionals. And that is why scaling in a non-linear way is very, very important. And so one is on the unlocking of value, but now if you start looking at the other dimension, right? The sheer efficiency gains which are possible by doing this in a non-linear scaling allows us to take those dollars and capacity getting out of the efficiency gains and invest in the right areas. So I would say two dimensions. One is the unlocking of higher order value, and second is the large scale efficiency, which almost makes it imperative for any large and diversified company to look at doing it in a very non-linear way.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we're talking about data and analytics, most organizations surface on the basic value that they can derive from data. But I think there's a lot more to data, and which you clearly said that it's important to unlock the high order value that we can derive from data. And I think that's where non-linear scaling steps in. Now, before if we are implementing any technology, or if we are making use of a data system or a data tool, we or the entire organization has to start with a charter in the organization, and we have to be very specific about the aim of the function within the organization and how it's intended to interact with the broader business. So I think there are some organizations that start with a fairly focused view around support on traditional functions like marketing or pricing, for that matter, or any other specific areas. And then there are other organizations that take a much broader view of the business. So just like you mentioned, that we need to unlock the higher order of value. But having said that, though non-linear scaling is fairly a new term to me, we would also like to know that are there any key steps that the organization should take, or any ideal approach for for deploying non-linear scaling of data analytics and AI?
Sure, Priya, and I would say, I will try and answer what we think is or rather what I think is the right way of doing it and what we are trying. I mean, clearly there is no single answer. I'm sure different companies try different things. But the way I look at it, in my opinion, the answer of doing this lies in looking very similar to what technology did for functions like customer servicing, right? And that is through looking at what I call the capability and platform based thinking. And to develop an approach, I would say there are three fundamental aspects. You could look at around the dimension of people, processes, and platform, right? So let's talk about people first, right? This is, in my mind, the one of the most powerful aspects which is required for nonlinear scaling, and really lies at the heart of it. And what it involves is developing a capability mindset across the entire organization. And let me explain that a little bit, right? When you closely examine the different analytics use cases across different businesses or domain, in the end, the decisions or questions that we are trying to answer, they end up falling across similar functional capabilities. So as an example, it could be either sales and marketing, and where if you further look at what are we trying to answer there, we are either trying to look at basis of segmentation, which segment to go after, what are the lead or campaign optimization techniques, or how do you optimize the cost of sales, cost of marketing. And this at a larger scale holds true across businesses. So what I mentioned here is probably not a fully exhaustive list, but similar set of sub capabilities or questions that need to be answered across businesses, right? Take another example. Let's say look at operations, right? Now, whether it is business operations or technology operations, some of the things that we try and attempt there are either around forecasting or intelligent routing or even intelligent remediation, where our servicing associates try and answer those rightfully and answer it very, very quickly. So what I mean by this capability mindset is the core set of questions that need to be answered are going to be around similar functional capabilities, and that could be easily bracketed them into, let's say, sales analytics, marketing analytics, customer analytics, or operations analytics, so product analytics, and so on and so forth, right? So that's one dimension of capability mindset that I look at. Now, if you look at the other dimension of capability mindset, if you start looking at the techniques which are below the models and insights, take, for example, natural language processing, or NLP as we call it, or even things like computer vision or recommendation engines. The root of that is not always going to be different, right? The data sets could be different and likely to be very, very different for different functional capabilities. But the core algorithm or the core framework is not necessarily going to be different. And I'm not saying it's going to be totally the same either. But my point is, it's not going to be either 0% or 100%, but lie in between. And that is why I feel having a capability mindset first is the most important thing. And once you have a capability mindset, then an organization can develop processes and platforms on top of these that can be leveraged to meet their needs. So I spoke about people, which is around the capability mindset. Let me touch upon processes and platform as well. Let's talk about processes, right? To ensure that we are doing non-linear scaling of analytical capabilities, there are few well-oiled processes that I would think of, right? And I would look at them in three different dimensions, right? One is, as I said, we need to clearly foster an agile environment. So we really need to have an environment where we can have rapid iteration, innovation, moving at pace. But when you do that, it is not something which you just leave that for associates to keep doing experiments. To enable that in a very fast way, it's also important to define an enterprise-wide taxonomy, an enterprise-wide ontology or frameworks. And while in the short term, these might appear to be sort of conflicting each other, essentially the second one really enables an agile environment in the long-term scenario, right? So those are the two dimensions. And third, I would say, is right up front, ensuring that there are clear governance practices, whether it's for effectively managing security, data privacy, ethics, or even regulatory aspects that several of the large companies have to deal with. Uh, Having spoken about processes and people, now let me talk about the platforms, right? So what I feel is, once you have this in place, then an organization is well set to build an existing data and analytics platforms, which really is at the core of non-linear scaling, right? And when I look at platforms in this world, we are essentially talking of multiple layers. At the core of it is, or at the bottommost of it is, what I call a robust analytical data platform. And what that means is, it's a platform which allows all of enterprise data for analytics to reside in a single place, and preferably a cloud-enabled data warehouse. It is a single copy comprising of different subject areas with a common enterprise-wide taxonomy and ontology, which can be used across multiple views. So one copy, but multiple views. And only a robust platform like this will truly ensure what I call the true liquidity of data assets across all business units, across all functions, across all associates, and across all domains. And that is how we can unlock the value at much higher multiples. And it is, as I said, this democratization of data through this shared frameworks of metadata, bounded by strict governance practices, which allows us to manage the security and integrity. And that allows a seamless mining and exchange of information across the organization. So that is, one thing at the core of it, a robust analytical data platform. And to just, illustrate the example, illustrate through an example, let's say, as an organization, if we have a 360-degree view of customer data, right? Now, if you really look at the power of it, it is not just allowing us to do personalization or customer experience analytics, but I can use the same data for the sales team for either upselling or by the product team for finding what are the unmet needs of the customer. Suddenly, multiple functions can start looking at the same data set, which might be coming from just one particular part of the organization. So in my mind, a good data platform enables analysts to focus more on data consumption rather than spending time on data collection and wrangling, right? So that's the first layer of platform. On top of that is what I call a robust model platform layer. And this is for development, deployment, and governance of the various models that our analytics professionals use. And while most of the models are developed by an associate in the end, the need to keep that in an enterprise way and manage them in a way so that we are even monitoring them and they don't depreciate over a period of time and the performance goes out of sync is very, very important. So there are enough tools which are available to develop and deploy them in a rapid fashion, but ensuring that they're all tied together, stitched together, and we can monitor these models in production for performance is very, very important. So that's the next layer that I call it. And finally, once you have the data and model layer, the last layer is what I call the analytics platform layer. And this consists of enabling reuse of components across business units and functions. Let me again take a few examples there. So let's imagine document extraction, right? You will hear many use cases across the industry about saying, look, we can use AI techniques to extract parts of the document. Now, when you look at the use cases, there are far too many. The applicability is widespread. It is probably very difficult to imagine a single model for all of these types of documents, right? Which are so very different. I mean, a passport is very different than probably a bank statement. But what we can do is if you start breaking it into smaller components, which are required for document extraction, suddenly you can realize you can create a suite of predefined models or utilities, which becomes very, very realistic for reuse. Take another example. Let's say intelligent search, right, which is used in business operations or technology operations. Now, probably they need to be trained on different knowledge sources. But again, as I said, the starting point need not be zero. Some of the components or base models are very, very common, and that can enable acceleration of usage and deployments. So the use of such components in an analytics platforms can really help us solve problems far more efficiently and effectively. And that is how we can unlock higher order value while maintaining productivity as well, right? So if you look at the examples I gave, essentially the platforms that I am speaking of are a realization or physical illustration or instantiation of the capability mindset, right? And in my mind, it is the combination of platform at all of these layers which will truly enable large firms to scale non-linearly. So by doing this, when you think of rendering a business use case, now it becomes like shopping for existing reusable components internally across multiple capabilities. You're bringing together multiple data sets in a very truly liquid way, which allows reuse and recombination of data assets. And finally, you can bring together multiple skills as well, like analytics, research, which largely looks at unstructured data, and then we can customize the insights and models and bring them to life. So finally, I would say, talking about this non-linear steps, essentially it is capability mindset in people and robust processes and platform, and that is what can really enable this. Sorry for this long-winded answer, but I thought it was important to touch upon each of the layers of these.
Not at all an issue, Satya. I think that was much needed, and you very well classified into different categories of people, processes, and platform, and how all the three elements are crucially important when we're trying to adopt a non-linear scaling of data. And of course, I really very much like the point that how we can actually set a mindset, the capability mindset within the entire organization of how probably a different technology that we are going to adopt. So that actually brings me to my next question, and that is the biggest challenge of making the evolution from a knowing culture or to a learning culture, and from a culture that largely depends on some traditional methods in decision making to a culture that is much more objective and data driven and embraces the power of data and technology. So it really is in the cause that we are talking about here. So I think it largely depends upon the imagination, inertia, and how the leaders and the chief decision makers can make sure that we are inculcating and learning culture. So while this is just like you highlighted that we need to have a mindset in the organization, and that could be one of the challenges when we're talking about adopting non-linear scaling, or for that matter any other technology that we would be deploying. So we would like to know from you any challenges that you have faced in your journey of non-linear scaling of data analytics, and any strategies that you had embraced to overcome them.
Yeah. And Priya, nothing comes without challenges. So I'll again list a few. When we touched upon the mindset, to me that is probably the biggest hurdle, right? And and it is not unusual to have that because if you really look at it, uh, people or every analytics associate at the end of the day, they are just trying to solve their use case and move to the next one, right? So that whole mindset of thinking beyond just my use case and my immediate need is and how does it fit into the larger ecosystem is probably to me the biggest challenge. And I think having that, and this is where having that capability mindset helps, where we examine each use case to what is the functional capability questions that they are seeking to answer to, and what is the technical capabilities that they're using. And when you combine those two, probably you can start looking at what is already available and how can I move fast reusing something. And sometimes you need a dedicated set of people looking at this aspect to try and enable it for the organization. And that's how you try and overcome this, right? The next challenge I would say is I think I spoke about how do you ensure that everything is also linked to the business strategy, right? Now, when you talk about decisions, strategic insights, strategic thinking, yes, it's good to use data and insights, but often there are multiple groups, there are multiple skills and techniques also being used, right? I mean, you could still have let's say doing a survey of our customers to find out what our customers are saying. We could look at their interactions to find out what customers are telling us about, which is not very evident. But evaluating them in parts doesn't always helps. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to bring together multiple skills, and that is why bringing together a research function, analytics function, uh, digital automation function, or a data function together allows that effectiveness of decision making to become far better. So that's another one. Third, I would say, is the pace of change itself. Look, the space continues to evolve very fast. Either there are new techniques or new offerings, a lot of R&D also going on in this space. So it is important for us not to stay rigid with past solutions and the past success as well. And also, as I say, it's not always either a build or a buy decision. For us, we continue to engage with our partners in the entire ecosystem, whether it is startups, vendor partners, academia. And that is what allows us to learn and stay competitive in this space as well. And finally, I would say one other thing is, especially for large companies like us, especially in financial services, which is highly regulated, governance matters a lot as well. Moving fast doesn't mean a laissez-faire usage of data and analytics and AI techniques. Uh, And more than usage, it is not about using them and putting them to production very, very quickly, right? So what we did was early on, the enterprise put a good governance model in place, which aims at ensuring that we meet the regulatory needs while we are going faster. And it's almost akin to saying rapid experimentation is not just about trying out new models every day with a customer base, because if those models are not monitored or not tested enough, there is a strong reputation for existing companies which can go haywire very, very quickly. And we have to defend that reputation as well. So I would say these are some of the challenges, the mindset, dealing with the pace. How do you ensure that it's a good balance of governance right up front so that nothing goes wrong as well?
Yes, I think I completely agree with you, Satya, that yes, challenges are a part of your journey, and whatever challenges that you have mentioned is something that probably every organization is going to face. And thank you for sharing us how probably we can overcome them also. So my last question of this podcast is, what are your views on the future? If you're talking about future of how data analytics and AI is going to be. So what are your views, or how do you think the future is going to be of data analytics and AI?
Of course, Priya, no prophet here, but first, what I think is large diversified organizations today do have the benefit of rich data history and relationship with customers. It is the usage of capability, mindset, and platforms that can really give them the power to leverage this for their competitiveness in marketplace. So that's the first thing I think. Second, I still believe this space will evolve, even looking at things like, let's say, data sharing maturity. Right now, we're looking at cloud enabled platforms to think about sharing data within the enterprise. But I'm certain over a period of time, digital enablement will mean even sharing data on a real time basis on an interconnected cloud enabled platform with our, let's say, digital ecosystem partners, and in a huge volumes in a similar and secure way as well. So if I have to close this, I would probably even use a metaphor which is largely used, saying for digital transformation, data will be the fuel and analytics will be the engine for driving the execution of these new strategies. But it is the non-linear scaling through capability and platforms which will really get the maximum mileage. So thank you, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Satya. It was actually a pleasure having you with us. So eventually, I think it depends that like few dispute that organization have more data than ever at their disposal, but actually deriving meaningful insights from the data and converting knowledge into action is easier said than done. Now, with increasing competition and changing market conditions, business data analysis is shifting to an altogether new paradigm. And making data accessible from all the areas of your business is your first step towards transformation and unlocking more opportunities. And just like you said, data is the fuel, and analytics is the engine. So leveraging the same and effectively cutting down business losses and boosting return on investment while constantly improving your decision making practices, it can actually help you in gaining the competitive advantage. And that's where I think non-linear scaling can help you with it. Thank you so much, Satya. It was a pleasure having you with us on a podcast. I think we have highlighted some important aspects and altogether explored a new topic, that is non-linear scaling. And I think our listeners would like to tap on the power of this new aspect of scaling of data and analytics. So thank you so much, Satya. It was a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you, Priya. Likewise, a pleasure talking to you all.
Great. So for our listeners, stay tuned for more such podcasts, and you can go to our Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Podcast channel for more such podcasts. Hoping to see you guys also. Thank you so much.